how to avoid ethical fading. So ethical fading refers to those situations when ethical aspects of a decision disappear from the person's view. Sometimes it is more than fading because people get blinded in self-deception and really make unethical decisions. So regardless of whether it is fading or blindness, both can lead to wrong decisions. I recall when I was doing a community service in a far-flung area south of Manila, I forgot my eyeglasses and I was like, I think that's about 400, 600. I mean, really a little bit blind. So I was nearsighted, which means that I could see things close to me clearly or normally, and distant objects appear blurry. But close to me should really be here as in front of my eyes. Once I just turned to my right and I was sitting down at the seat next to me, and I really thought it was a handbag that someone forgot. So I looked closer and I realized it was a cat. And another time I saw something fell at my feet and I thought it was a mini coin purse without strap or anything. And it's as if it fell down, it landed flat on the floor. So I stooped down to pick it up and I felt it was not a solid coin purse, but a soft, slimy texture. I realized it was ice cream that fell off its cone. It's good I could not see the other people because I was blind in a sense. I would have seen how horrified they were at the sight of a lady stooping down to pick up a melting ice cream. So one thing was I had a blurred vision, and another thing, I deceived myself by acting on two things that I thought I saw. The handbag, which was really a cat sitting with its paws tucked under its tummy, and the little coin purse, which was really ice cream that fell off its cone. I think the girl was in a queue before me. So the vision which I that time I the vision which that time I did not accept as blurred gave me a reason for deciding to act, and my action was hilarious, if not icky. So this is similar to ethical fading when a person engages in self-deception thinking there is no ethical consideration in that decision to be made. Or if there is any ethical issue, it's got to be something positive and not negative. In other words, the decision to be made is framed as if there is nothing ethical in the picture, or it is hidden or blurred out from you, or viewed in a positive way. For example, an accountant who will make a net loss appear like a net income could think that he is actually simply tweaking the numbers so that the employees can get some bonuses in these difficult times, in these pandemic times. So the dishonesty is framed as a charitable act, a kind act. Let's give another example. Take the case of a reporter who was lacking time to go to the field to write something, to interview. So he writes a fake news and justifies it, saying that in the current proliferation of fake news, his story would not even get noticed. So he can get away with it easily since everybody's doing it in a sense. All the reporters are giving out fake news. That's what he's saying, which is not true. So, a similar example is the one that prompted me to tackle this particular topic today. A young online troll by the voice, very young, revealed in a radio program, a call in interview, that although he earned 2.5 million annual income disseminating disinformation, replying stupid things to the followers of Vice President Leni Robredo, and actually, he said, I voted for her thinking she's really the better candidate. But then he said, a job is a job. Why he is revealing himself now after the elections is really not clear. There were no follow. I mean, it was really not, the sounds were not clear. So we did not, I think it was only a 13 minutes interview or 8 minutes. So that is actually that online troll revealing himself very young and saying that a job, justifying his trolling. It's actually a frightening scenario for parents out there. You might have children who suddenly have a lot of money. They are in front of the computer all day and they don't seem to be happy as they are justifying their work of peddler of lies by saying it is simply a job. Will online trolling and disinformation stop now? Perhaps no, if that is a well paying job. And probably you see, I was thinking, among the radio listeners that time, there could be some people who got so angry, who cried with that realization that, this guy is just thinking it's a job, but actually he has done this much, this damage. And actually, there could be other people who got interested in that reality that there's like online trolling. You just say stupid things and you are going to be paid 2.5 million. That's interesting. So you can have two kinds of people. And one is really like aghast, I mean, really angry with the lack of ethics, and other people who perhaps their ethics have failed and said, I will try that job. Okay. But we are not going to all go out of the country, right? I remember a professor saying, okay, you all go out, which I think that also applied to me. I went out, but I came back. I went out 2 years for master's, 4 years for PhD, 6 months for sabbatical in New York. I still came back. So I won't deny anyone the opportunity to go, but we are not going to have an exodus right now, right? So we will try to fix the problems now. And this live stream is really part of that problem solving to help you. If you feel strong enough now to fight the temptations of not working for the good or literally to be bad earning a living, earning that much of money just being stupid troll. So first, it is important to be prepared. I think that's the one that you have seen earlier. Um, these are my tips. I think I have 9 tips right now. And first, I think we have been prepared in this election. We it is important for us to be prepared for ethical challenges, more and more ethical challenges. So toughen yourself. When in this society, the cursing, the swearing, the lies are they considered normal if not a polite behavior becoming of a government official, where in these times when lies are truths depend on how much you are earning to propagate the lies and all these frightening scenarios. So really we have to be prepared for these ethical situations. And then I have it here, we have to take courage. If you are disheartened by the recent events, it's not yet the end of the world. We have shown in the days leading up to the elections that we can actually be diligent, we can be very charitable, we can be very kind, we can be magnanimous, generous, giving up free food. So we can be smart, coming up with creative flyers, etc. Okay, we got so high in patriotism and went so low with the election results. So we have to be brave because really God's power is never diminished by the evil forces. I would even suggest if you have not watched any movie about our past, negative past, but in the end, we have learned from that. If you have not watched The Kingmaker, which is the movie about the times of the Marcoses, I really recommend you watch it and see that we have survived the times when 70,000 people were jailed, 34,000 were tortured, more than 3,200 were killed, and we are here still standing as a nation. So we still live in a nation of brave heroes, even if sometimes the outside world can be confused with our votes, our dispositions, and the people we put back in power. So we're still standing, and I think we are brave. Okay. So, another thing that we could do is um, the plan if and then scenarios. So you could go into if and then planning. What if you got offered 2.5 million to reply stupid remarks in Facebook, to come up with false stories every day, how would you reject the temptation, the tempting offer? What if your spouse or your parents, they find out about the offer and they tell you to accept it? How would you deal with that when the entire family seems to have given up on good values for the price of 2.5 million? So do you so what could be the scenario? What if you are the person who are not tempted with money? What if you're the person who are more God fearing, who who has less regard for money? No. What if you try to experience to live a sober life, and probably really you travel for the sake of traveling, not for posting your travels in social media? And what if you are the type of person who's wanting to be rich and famous? So if you think that you have disproportionate desires for wealth that can lead you to accept an online troll job that's high paying, what do you plan now to train yourself and your family in temperance and sobriety? You could probably try commuting and walking under the heat of the sun and not using your car every day. You could avoid, like, really putting yourself in a situation where money will not be really your huge goal, that you can live without money and still be good. You can live without money because you want to be good. Okay. You could avoid, well, of course, I'm not saying that people who have money are all good. What I'm saying is that sometimes you are tempted and then you put yourself in a plan if then scenario. What if you you reject that offer? Could you still live with little money? So you could avoid perhaps complaining when the food is not to your liking, or choosing first to eat the food that you don't like and giving up the food that you like. So you think of this scenario, how would you feel? No, could you would you turn angry with all of these sacrifices? So you could try also leaving the house with little cash and no credit cards, and avoid buying anything that is not essential. So if you really need more money, then you could read up on online businesses, which will demand little capital. Of course, online trolling is also an online business, but I would expect that you will read up on decent work where you put your face out there and you try to be a dignified, hardworking, respectful person as much as possible. Okay. So another tip to avoid ethical fading is to be humble. So we are not saints. No one is going to be a proclaimed saint while still living here on earth. So recognize that we are capable of doing wrong if we are not vigilant, if we don't examine our conscience every day, or simply we reflect or we look inward on our actions regularly. It's similar to perhaps you have experienced the post-mortem meetings done by learning organizations. So don't be so proud as to say that you can fight all evils in the world. We have to have those reflection moments, especially after big decisions, or even sometimes when you have um, rejected a very tempting offer that will make you, that is not a decent job, a dignified job. It's not something that you can be proud of, that you can show your face and you can say, I work as an online troll, but really telling everyone. And the person tells you you're stupid. I really identifying yourself. So I don't think that is possible. In this regard, really, I think the next tip is to think that we have to think of this as a lifelong pursuit, no? When you think of ethics as not only avoiding the evil but also pursuing the good, we realize that forming a good character that enables you to make ethical decisions is a lifelong pursuit. People say you have to grow up. Some people who grow old don't grow up. I mean, meaning that they don't mature, no? But I would think that we have to grow old and good at the same time. Uh, it's like, yeah, still having a good character. Nowadays, I see sometimes some people can get to be very loyal. They're being asked, why do you vote this? Basta. It's like this. So I thought we grow old and we must be also more like reflective and really knowing why we do what we do. I would also like to emphasize living an ethical life really until we grow old. And it needs intentional awareness, self-knowledge, constant education, lifelong learning, mindfulness. I read somewhere that any wine can turn to vinegar if oxygen gets inside a bottle and reacts with the alcohol. So this can happen when the cork is defective, when it's of poor quality, or when wine is stored upright instead of being on its side. So we have to be good wine all the way until we are consumed, meaning until we die. So that will mean that now you have to be vigilant what enters in the head. You know, in the 2000, they say that all of this trolling, people have probably learned it from the time of the victory of Mr. Trump in the US. So in the 2016 US elections, a study found that 1%, that a percent, is that 1%? 1% of people aged 65 and older, they shared fake news stories on Facebook. And then another research found out that American Facebook users over 65 shared nearly 7 times as many articles from fake news domains as those aged between 18 and 29. So we have to be careful with what we let in our mind, let in. I mean, what enters into our mind. We have to be discerning, we have to be prudent, or else we might grow old like acidic vinegar and not good wine. Like the young people can say, what happened to her? No? So another tip, are you learning from this? I hope you are. So another tip is to be vocal about your ethical choices. You know, Facebook or other social media apps could be instruments of disinformation, but it could also be instruments or showcase of ethical conduct. So you could narrate in your Facebook wall those ethical choices, and they can be interesting read or stories. You know, if you are not good in writing, I am neither good. And sometimes I think I need another writer, another editor. So I recommend an app that I also use in order to improve my writing. You can use Hemingway app, which can help you write, and actually it gives you evaluation along the way as you type. It will tell you some things that you can improve in your writing. But of course, social media is not the only avenue to be vocal about your ethical choices. It can be the face to face replies or the short messaging. You know, if someone invites you to lunch, you could be sincere to say, okay, but I will proceed there after I attend an online mass. If that is the truth, no? Don't be afraid to be judged as a show off if that is not the case. You know, if it is really your pious practice to go to noontime mass such that you eat lunch later, you're just telling the truth that you won't arrive at noon as you are finishing attending the Holy Mass. Or, for example, you don't hide the fact that after office, you could pass by a company chapel once a week to, to do your confessions. So, why not go public that you go to weekly confession? If that is what you do, if that is really that is your practice, so there's really nothing wrong with that. If the Facebook is full of all of this, sometimes disinformation, you give them good information, truthful information also about your ethical choices. You know, I remember I was walking with a Spanish friend in Anaheim in California, where I had the opportunity to go to Disneyland. But in any case, we were in a conference, and every day we would go to mass. And one day we went to mass, and we had to go to the nearest hotel to use their telephone to get a taxi. And that time there was no Uber yet. So it was actually a long walk. When you say the nearest hotel, it's actually a long walk. So we started praying the rosary. And I noticed that her rosary beads were really very visible, like hanging from her hand, no? So I called her attention. Why? And I said, why are you not discreet about it? And she said, we are in the States. We are in America, where people are free to do whatever they like. So good deeds or not so good deeds, they are in public. So okay, I said, it sounds logical. So These days, no one could accuse you of being holier than thou when they approve of every influencer being authentic or being vulnerable with all of their faults. So I think there's really nothing wrong in being very visible, being very vocal about your ethical choices, which can also go beyond attending pious practices, really choosing what is right. You can be very vocal about that, I suggest. And then another um, example that I read somewhere in an environment where there are temptations to fraud, a girl wrote a quotation under her email signature that says, "Success without honor is worse than fraud." I can actually, when I put this live stream into transcript, I'll give you the source. I have to find out the exact source of this. So, success without honor is worse than fraud. So for that girl, it was as a deterrent to being asked online to engage in unethical behavior. So think about it. What would be your moral signaling? How would you signal the others to not even tempt you with an unethical invitation? Okay. So the seventh tip that I have is that you get honest advisors. Surround yourself with people who will help you instead of confirming your mistaken notions about your self-worth. So who can this be? Recall who among the people you sought advice in the past were really brave enough to tell you that you were wrong. Yes, you have not done well in that thing that you are telling me about. They were really honest about it. And be very careful of those people who would always avoid telling you the truth. They would advise you to forget everything. Don't worry, well, forget those advisors who cannot point to you what is right and what is wrong. So you need good teachers and advisors. You don't need if they're just telling you uh, the thing that you want to be heard. You just buy a parrots who would just repeat back what you want to be heard. I think that's a very strong thing, but it's really, really for you. We need an honest confidant. We all have weak or blind spots. And this confidence, they can tell us in our face, look, you might not want to hear this, but you really made a bad decision or you made a real mess there. No? So if that online troll had a confidant and advisor who would not really go to this, I think there's a little less probability because having been like I don't know, I have high regards for Ateneo and he said he's from Ateneo. I think there are some things that he missed out, some help that he missed out. Okay. Um, Eight, I placed here, don't discount the personal safeguards. And what are these? These personal safeguards are very important, like having good quality sleep. Sometimes, you make bad decisions when you have slept less. Um, if you are in a stress situation, a lot of overtime, people can really get to be very moody. They can shout at each other. They can get angry. They can be unethical. So when they are in stressful situations, so the personal safeguards would really be good quality of sleep, little stress, fewer overtimes, good quality work, not interrupted constantly by your office mates, by distractions like using social media. So I also would recommend these days, examine yourself. Does using Facebook make you less depressed, more optimistic about the Philippines? If not, why not stop using Facebook for a while? Do some exercise. Sleep 8 hours daily and see if it helps you from being sad about national events, arguing with people in the comments. And be careful with that because now, since we have found out that the online troll, that's really his job to really answer like that, why fight people there? Because probably they're really paid to do that. So don't waste your energy fighting the trolls, and don't be unkind to unfriend people just because of politics. Getting annoyed in your mind, even if you do not verbalize it, all of these things. And then lastly, my last tip is this, because being ethical involves looking at consequences of our actions on other people. So I was moved by a story of an advertising executive. The name is Roy Spence. Again, I will have to look for that article and quote it, reference it in the blog that will accompany this the blog that will come out from this live stream. And I think it is from an article by Professor Heffernan, Margaret Heffernan, on willful blindness. So Mr. Roy Spence refused to work for Enron, even if many would rush to get hired by this very successful, formerly successful accounting. And no, this is the one that was in the same scandal as that accounting firm. So really the Enron scandal, I think that was in the energy sector. So Mr. Roy Spence reflected how he saw what others missed. And obviously he was talking about the post-Enron scandal, and he concluded that a lifetime of seeing through the eyes of the powerless gave him a different perspective and really prevented him from getting into Enron that later on became a scandal. No. So he talked about the times that he would wheel his sister to school. His sister suffered from cystic fibrosis, and she used a wheelchair, and he would actually wheel his sister to school. So he said that he could see the people pitying them, but they could not see that this brother and sister, they're having a wonderful relationship. So his question to himself was, if they're missing so much about us, what am I missing about them? So this anecdote made the author, Margaret Heffernan, to conclude that willful blindness that leads to ethical fading and unethical behavior could really be widespread, but it is not irresistible. A little bit of thinking will help, and more of thinking, as I say here, from the perspective of the powerless. So those are my 9 tips for you to avoid ethical fading. Hopefully you recognize those ethical situations, and let me know in the comments below what you found most helpful. Okay? And as I told you, I have to uh, have a virtual toast with you. Thank you very much for accompanying me in this 100 public videos. I might have 200 videos in my YouTube channel, but many of them are private because these are like things that I do for an NGO. So this is really my 100th public video, everything that you see in my channel. And it has been really for 2 years. It's been wonderful to be giving all of this information, and I hope that they are really helpful. And I hope that you can also give me topics that you would like me to discuss in the future live streams. Thank you very much again for joining me.